So the first thing anyone wants to know when getting a new RC car is how fast does it go? WLToys claims it out of the box it'll hit 50 kilometers an hour, which is roughly 30 miles an hour. On my first run with a brand new battery pack, I got 29 miles per hour, which is darn close to what they claim. After a couple of more runs, the speed dropped a little bit on it. 25 miles per hour is what we got, which is still respectable. Here we've got a little bit of footage of going off on some rough terrain. Now I will say that going off on smooth terrain like we saw earlier, it was really prone to traction roll. One of the problems though with running through grass, especially stiff, taller grass, is that the power switch on the bottom of it gets frequently turned off. An easy, quick remedy to this would be to put a piece of black electrical tape over the power switch, thus the blades of grass can't knock it into the off position. It does handle the rough stuff really well. If you had a brushless motor, it possibly would go through the grass a little bit better, a little bit quicker, but it seems to handle it pretty well with just a brush motor. It's not the fastest, but it handles the terrain really well. And this is with oil in the shocks, not without the oil as the car came. I put in 60 weight oil. And now here we have it going across the rocks, as it is a trophy truck / rock crawler, rock buggy, whatever hybrid thing that you want to call this. And these creek rocks, it does handle pretty well. It has no problems going down, no problems going up. It doesn't get hung up on the rocks at all. And unlike the grass, the power switch does not get switched off on the rocks. Here we've got a little more footage going on the rocks. I probably took too much of this, but it was fun, believe it or not, running up and down the rocks. Now we're going to see how well it jumps. And as you can see, it is taking a few tumbles when we jump here. Now I will say that when I was running it on the pavement, it did do a lot of cartwheels due to traction rolling, and it did handle those very well, as well with all the wrecks of the jumping. Now I can say that when it jumps, it being four-wheel drive, I was kind of surprised it was a bit nose heavy. Even staying on the throttle, the nose tended to go down a bit. So when you get it in the air, you really have to pull on the throttle for it to land with the nose up. Now I take it to one of my favorite surfaces to run on, which is a baseball diamond. Unfortunately, at this time of year here where I live, the diamonds aren't as dusty and as loose of a dirt as they are in the summer and the springtime. Still, however, we are able to get a few rooster tails out of it as we're sliding along and a few good drifts. Again, I probably took a little bit too much footage of this, but I was having too much fun to cut it short. Getting some pretty good drifts there, as you can see with the dust kicking up on it. Ah, that was a real nice one there. With those knobby, sticky tires, it's a little harder than what you might think it is to drift it. Now, this is where it really shined at. This is the gravel parking lot where the baseball diamond is. There's a lot of big rocks, small rocks, ruts, and I tell you, this was surprisingly the most fun and the best terrain to run this on. This vehicle is not meant to run on smooth terrain. This is meant to take on the rough stuff. The rockier the more pockmarked the surface is, the more fun, the better it is. This thing just absorbed every bump and jump on this like a pro. I almost felt like I was running a mini Dakar run on this. Now, I didn't try to purposely break the vehicle, but while having a little too much fun, I did run it into one of those wooden parking blocks you see in the background, and again, no damage. So overall, this is a pretty tough vehicle. It may be a little more difficult to get parts from. You may have to import those from China, but I can't see you really needing to replace parts on it that often unless you're really abusive toward it. I was taking some 3 and 4 foot tall jumps, cartwheeling it on the pavement, and ran it into a parking block without any damage. It's going to take a lot to break this thing. Again, there's a little more footage of it running around and taking a spill or two. It just loves this surface. Now, in case you weren't nauseous today, here's a little FPV footage for you. Why? Just because I think it's fun. It's also kind of fun to imagine that you are in one of these rally buggies, trophy buggies, because most of us will never get the chance to ride on one of these and ride through some of these crazy surfaces, bounding over rocks or over dunes or grassy plains in a buggy. So the FPV kind of gives you that perspective of what it would be like. And this was one of the times that the blades of grass did catch the power switch and caused it to turn off. I didn't edit it out just so you can see that it's not really that fun for the buggy to sit there while you walk and retrieve it and turn the power switch back on it. Now, I will tell you too that you might think once in a while the power switch gets flipped off when it doesn't because of the low voltage cutoff. If you see that the power switch is still in the on position, but you lose power on the buggy, then that means that's low voltage kicking in, and that it's time to recharge your battery pack. You can turn it off and turn it on again, and you might get it to run for another few seconds to a minute, but it'll turn itself off again. And that's one of the other things. I know we discussed in the first video that the battery pack for it is kind of small, and there's not really a lot of room for a bigger one. But you know, I got maybe 10-15 minutes on this thing, not running it full out all the time. And that's okay, but you really would like a longer battery pack. So if you don't get an extra battery pack with a Dean's connector on it and have a Dean's connector on your charger, then you'll probably want to get a larger battery pack or 2 larger battery packs, because the 1600 that comes with it's just a little short. I do have to say overall that if you're thinking about getting this type of vehicle, that you really can't go wrong with this. I can't see spending $300, $400 on the Vitara or the Axial when this is just so affordable and such a fun vehicle. I wouldn't go so far as to put brushless in it, but some of you speed demons or people out there that want to maybe push things a little further and put the brushless in it, I think it can handle it.